Good. I hope everything is okay. This positioning. How do you position elements on a web page? What are the different types of positioning? And other things like that. So under CSS positioning, we have around 5 types of CSS positioning, and we are going to look at majorly 4 because the fifth one, or the first one for that matter, is the default. So we have what we call static, then we have what we call relative, we have what we call absolute, we also have what we call fixed, and then we have one of the newest called sticky. So this static is the default, that the stuff is, for as long as you put it in the body section and it is it can be accessed, then by default that type of positioning is static. That kind of positioning is static. So we are going to look at what relative means, we are going to look at absolute, we are going to look at fixed and sticky. There is something else to note. We can also say that in most cases, or almost all cases, because we have not yet created any other corners or any other areas or any other directions on earth, we are going to be using majorly 4 keywords: top, we shall also be using right, then we use bottom, and we use left. So we can then mix these. This could make something like top dash right. Okay, we can find something like that, or top dash left. The same applies to here. We could have something like bottom dash right, then also bottom dash left. So these are the words we shall be playing around. As you realize, we are not having something like top dash bottom, because this means we are saying that top then bottom. So where should that particular object you are trying to move around go? There is some bit of confusion if you do that. Then the same applies to right, to say that right dash left. So how should it stretch to cater for these parameters? So we do top right bottom, or we do top right, because top right would be here, top left would be here, bottom left here, and bottom right here. We can as well position them here or in the middle, or slightly off the left hand side. But yes, this would be the definition of pixels or EMs, whatever you would want to use, for us to create something like this. So another thing you need to realize is that under CSS, assuming you had a box that would represent all the 4 directions, then we would be able to we could create it, but it might take us. Okay, assuming you had a box, for example, like this. I don't want to draw it. Assuming you had an example of a box So when you say, another thing you will realize is that these positions can take up both negative and positive values. Okay, both negative and positive values. When they are positive values, for example, when you say something like top 100 pixels, you are saying that move from the top of the container or the top of the window. There are two. Usually we use the as what we call viewport. This could be the browser window, no matter the size of the window. Then there is also what we call, say, a container, or what you might call wrapper. What this one means is that whatever the other instruments, for example, you have a jerrycan here, so a cupboard, and you want to press in cups. The cupboard acts as a container and the cup acts as the element or the child. So the cupboard is the parent, which is also a container or wrapper, and then the cup or the plates or the spoons are the children of the parent, which is the cupboard. At the same time, the cups, the plates, and the forks are also siblings to each other. We saw all those in tutorials of selectors. If you haven't looked at them, check them out. They are there. So these are the things we play around with. A viewport stroke web browser window. Okay, so we are saying top of what? It could be top of the container or wrapper or cupboard, like I am saying. Then it could also be top of the browser window. So whichever top you are referring to, it will still push this item of yours, it will push this cup inside the cupboard 100 pixels. When you say negative 100 pixels, it would push this cup outside the cupboard, out inside, like through the walls of that container. Now, if it is going to be through the walls of that container, then most likely it is going to land on the web page outside the defined area that you have set, which you might not want, but in case that is what you want, it is still okay with the negatives. They are also very effective in trying to pull space from one direction to the other, because you might as well choose to say, for example, right negative. So this would pull from the right negative 100 pixels. So if the element was here, it would move slightly this side, but in the negative direction. You would push it through here, because that would also work. Then you have left, you have bottom. All these can work around those parameters, both negative and positive values. So now that we have looked at that, another thing you need to know, there is what we call a document flow for block level elements. For example, we have, say, a div, a paragraph, we have lists. You will realize that every time you say paragraph or every time you say div and other block level elements that we shall be using now or in the future, they will always go below each other. They cannot be on the same line. So that is the normal, what we call normal document flow of a certain element. So as long as it is a block level element, then they by default they are meant to be below each other according to how you have arranged them in the HTML page structure. Whereas inline elements will follow each other. For example, you have things like image or links or inputs. Inputs will be on the same line. We shall look at inputs when we start things like forms. I wouldn't want to jump into them now, yet we usually use them under forms, or even if a form is very small but we are using inputs, they are better used under forms. We have links, the anchor tag, we have that is a topic of its own, quite wide, but we shall also look at it. We have things like image. So unless the images are quite wide or very big that they cannot fit on the same line, then they can go below each other. But as long as they are small and can fit on the same line, they will always be on the same line from left to right. If it is a sentence, it can also be on the same line, and you will see some word wrapping, but they will still stay on the same line if you have defined them under links or inputs or images. So that is something you need to note. So let us go to our Visual Studio Code. We can create two lists, we can create two files, one as a position can call this position dot usually forget this I, position dot HTML. We can come here and we say HTML, we save this. We can also create this as position dot CSS. It must be in the folder of CSS. Then you scroll down here and say HTML, CSS. So you save. So you can pick a page structure here. Type HTML. We have the head. Inside the head we have the title. At the title we can call this positioning dash CSS. Then we have meta. We have character sets, UTF-8. We can link our page here, that is .css. And then we have position.css, and we have our body tag here where we are going to work what we are going to work with. We can say h1 CSS positioning, and we say h3 and we say position relative. Okay, so we can begin. We could have a class, maybe could have a class that says the box. Then we could give them maybe an ID, or we first do this. Try to create around 3 boxes, and we give them, in case we want to see them differently. Remember, we used the same example where we were looking at Z index, how HTML elements overlap each other, and say ID. This is B. I can say B1, B2, and then B3. So we can look at that. We can say maybe I add a BR here, because these are going to go over each other. So I'm trying to create some space. When I refresh, there is nothing that you will see for now, because literally there is nothing inside the div. So there is nothing you will be seeing with this. But now we can position these as B1, B2, B3. So we can say, since they have their specific IDs, we use the hashtag, say B hash B1. We can define the width to be 100 pixels. We can say height 100 pixels. Be mindful of the spelling errors here, it's better you type say something like hate and then you press enter. That way you are very sure. We can give it a background such that you are able to see it. Background color, we can say red for example. Then we can now when we come here to our page, we can access our work, which is under document, or we could go to our website and rather our web page, and then double click on the file we are dealing with, the position. So as it loads, we can be looking at, we are going to work on this. You see, we can be using also this as B2. We also shall come and say B2. We can come here and say B3. So assuming all of them are the same, we've not yet worked on anything concerning not yet worked on anything concerning positions. So when we refresh our page, we have this, because we are defining the 3 positions already. So our page is like this. So this is where they are, B1, B2 and B3. Now we can say position relative. When I refresh, there is nothing you see because we've not given it any direction. Where should it go? Bottom. So we can set top 100 pixels. I told you, if we are pushing, if you are saying top 100 pixels, then it is going to push 100 pixels from the top. Okay, 100 pixels from the top. So it is going to pick here, since this would be our viewport. It is not, we've not limited it to any container so far. So when I refresh, it pushes inside here. Let me remove this such that you are able to observe what has just taken place. I can get it back here to its position here. So now when I set up 100, I can refresh and you see it being pushed by 100. Now if I say negative 100, it will just jump from here. Now it is jumping from its original position here. We refresh, you see, then we say 100 and then refresh, it jumps. So it is jumping from its original position where it was statically, okay, to above 100. So you realize by using this, even if this was my logo, it is already covering 2 sections. One way of applying it, you might have seen it on some websites that they have a logo that is spanning or covering 2 sections. This is how they do it. So I could push this side such that I can create space for this. It doesn't cover the words, but then it would look nice with more designs. So you've seen negative. What if I said negative 100? That then right maybe 20. Okay, let's say 100 pixels or so. When I refresh, it goes inside. Why? This particular negative is pushing it. That is 1, 2. We said that the 100, when it is a positive value, it pushes inside. When it is let me bring it back, then I can explain that to you once again. I have this box here, top. I can as well remove this. I want you to understand this relative is not like the others. So this is top, right, bottom, left. If I say negative, negatives push outside. If I say positive, positive pushes inside. Even if I was at the bottom and I said positive, it would push up. Even if I was here and I said positive, it pushes inside. It pushes inside. Right, as long as right is positive, it also pushes inside. And relative, if it is negative, it would push this side. Negative, push outside. Negative, push outside. Negative, push outside. Let's try them. When top is negative, it pushes outside. That's what we are saying. When right is positive, it pushes inside. If it is going to push this inside to the right by 100 pixels, that's why it is outside the website. If we say negative right, it means it is going to do what? Push. It is going to push it this side. Why? Because the negative pushes outside. Like it was here, negative pushed outside, whereas positive pushes inside. So now when we refresh here, it has now pushed it outside. So I can use the negative, for example. It would be a bit weird, but no problem. I can push negative 500 pixels, and here it is. So I position it here, and all other things that I do can stop around here, and somebody will forever see this thing and wonder how I did it. So we can also say that positive left, and maybe and also bottom. That's so bottom, so I can cross this out. I also cross this out. So now after getting this out, we can take it back to its position. That was the original position. Now we can test the bottom and left. After this, you will have gotten familiar with what is supposed to be done, so I can increase on the speed. So we are saying bottom left, 100 pixels. Let us take it step by step, because this I wouldn't want to rush you. I refresh, you can see it is pushing up. Yes, up. This is relative. Up, absolute will work a bit different. Up, okay, it up 100, so it means negative 100, that is top. Let me show you. If I say bottom 100 pixels, it is also the same as saying top negative 100 pixels. Okay, why? Because this is doing the same thing, you see. Whereas negative pushes outwards, this pushes inwards. So top negative 100 pulls it up, it pulls this up, yes, whereas positive pulls it down or pushes it down. The same applies to bottom. If it is positive, it pushes it up, because all positives push inside, or negatives push outside. Okay, please repeat this part such that you can understand this. Then it means if I said negative, okay, let me come here. If I said bottom to be, remember we can't use both now here, we have to deactivate the other one. If I said bottom negative 100 pixels, we need to comment this. If I said negative 100 pixels, before we do that, it is going to be here, then we expect now that it is negative to put it downwards here. In other words, to say as if it is top 100 pixels. So when we refresh our page with this negative 100, we refresh, it pushes down. Yes, so this is the same as top 100 pixels. So when I bring out the left now, left which is positive should push it this side. You see, push it inside for positives and a relative, push it outside for negatives. Now it means if this this left 100 is the same as saying negative, it's the same as saying right negative 100. If you remember, when we said negative 500 pixels, we brought it here for the right hand. If we do a negative of left, it will push it this side, meaning it is the positive of right. I hope you understand that, but I've taken enough time to describe what they are here. Even if now we do not do B2 or B3, these would explain to you what this means. Let's move on now to something else called absolute. We are going to pick some of these, then we add our usual stuff, HR, BR, and then we can do position absolute. We can do position absolute. Okay, position absolute, we can change these numbers to 4, 5, and 6 because IDs must be unique. So what is the position absolute? Position absolute, we can say that this, it uses the nearest. Position absolute uses the nearest container or containing element with a position. Okay, so this needs to be contained in something, whether it is a cupboard or it is a whole house. Okay, in terms of this, we are using a cupboard to be the containing element, and we are using the house to represent a web browser. Okay, so let us see how this positioning looks like, because I know words might not favor you in this thing. So we need to put this in a parent for that matter, because it uses the nearest element. We can choose to fix them in something, or we could use the web browser itself. Need to push this inside here, and then we can also do this. I'm trying to make sure my code is aligned properly. So we can do that. So it means we have a parent container that we must define what its sizes are. We are saying here, remember we are doing now position absolute. So we are going to say dot parent, since it is a class. What size is this? Width. You usually see me type a few letters and then press enter, because I don't want to have spelling errors. It could be serious mistakes that you might fail to locate if you are still new to programming. So background, background what, which background we can say maybe gray. Okay, when we come to our page and refresh, here we are, position absolute. Don't worry about this, we both know we can push it up to be okay. Let us choose to push it up. We can reduce the bottom, just the bottom alone, maybe to 50. We refresh, it goes up like that. It is a positive, we can leave it as a negative, such that it is somewhere there. That is fine enough, no problem. So this is our parent container. Everything we are going to do is going to be rotating around this. So we could as well create say before. We have it there. Yes, let's pick this. I'm leaving out other boxes in case you want to use them for something. You can as well apply other parameters to them. Bottom left, bottom right, top right, you can use these, but I'm going to use before to explain whatever I'm going to explain. If you want to arrange these other boxes in different positions, you also can. So you can't refuse. Another thing I forgot maybe about position relative is that whether that box leaves the space, what we call document flow, the boxes downwards or the contents down below it cannot occupy the space. Why? Because in the first place they are block level. 2, for position relative, everybody stays where they are, meaning if you change positions under position relative, then there will always be an occupied space left behind by that particular item that you have just positioned or given new locations like this. So this space here will be unoccupied because it's as if it is still there much as we have changed its position. Whereas under position absolute, we have a spelling error here. Whereas under position absolute, this is a spelling error absolute. You have once the top, for example, the top or the middle is pushed away or positioned in some other area, others will move up to occupy that space if there are contents below whatever you have moved. So that is the difference, and that is why in most cases we use position absolute, such that we do not waste space around the element or the item we have just shifted. Okay, so we go back to position absolute. We can come to our code here. We have parent, we have just defined parent. Now we pick before. Before here, what are we going to say? It is an ID, so we use a hash before. We could as well pick these items and change them. We want it to be 100, and then the height is also 100. We can change the color maybe to red. Okay, so let me refresh. We see, and I refresh, we have it here. Okay, but currently we cannot do anything to it. Let me show you. If we chose to say top 100, okay, 10 pixels, just 10 pixels, when I refresh, there is nothing we are seeing. We realize it is supposed to push it inside. You see, everything here is okay, but there is nothing we are. Now, what if we said 100 then? You see? Now, if we want to move this item around that container, we've got to position here. To make the parent position must be relative. Whether it is the viewport or the browser window, or like the containing element we have just created and called parent, it must be position relative. Then this can now be position absolute. Okay, so let me first comment this out. I refresh, it stays at the same page, there is nothing taking place right now. But when I say top 10 pixels and then I refresh, you see it starting to move inside this container. So what if I said top there and then I say right also 10 pixels? See what it does. So quite very interesting. Assuming this was the whole page, we shall look at another example, a live example of how to arrange some of these items on the web page. So don't worry about that. So top right is this under absolute. You can see it is going everywhere. We can leave it. You can leave that one there. Now let me first fix this. Let me put this here and then this here, and then we pick our what? It is B5 and B6. All right, B5 and B6. You can copy this, and this is B5, this is B6. We can change this maybe to green, and then the background here to blue. When I refresh my page here, I have them here, okay, even overlapping. We have a BRI inside here. Now let us remove it. Okay, like this. Now we are positioning absolute. Wait, it's not yet your turn. Positioning absolute here. Okay, and then 10 like this. They already set to top 10, but it was doing nothing because the position was still inactive. Now this one, so observe what happens. This one is pushed there, and like I had said about document flow, the ones down come and cover that space and all occupy that space. So it is here, it's as if it never existed, you see. So let us change this B5. We can do this, but we don't want top right. We want to take B5 left 10 pixels, and then bottom, you can as well say bottom 0 pixels, such that it sits right at the bottom. It is green that we are going to move. It is here. So when we refresh our page, you can see left 10 pixels, bottom 0 pixels. What if we just wanted to fit in the corner, all of them for both sides? Then we say 0 pixels and it will fit right there. Meanwhile, blue has already occupied this space. Okay, so if you want this to fit exactly at the edges, make it 0 and this one is 0. So we can choose to push this one around here, or we can choose to push this one this side. Now you have the liberty to do anything you want. You could maybe say that the top should be that is 10. Let us pick something like 50, and the right may be and the right could be, let's say, let us begin with 50 pixels. We pick absolute, then we refresh our page and see, you see, this is 50 from the top, 50 from the right. Now if you want that to be like that, it is okay. It means you can also change this to the same parameters and it will come here. You'll create some sort of Z index. That is why we first studied Z index overlapping HTML elements. Now we could as well say 100. Let us look at it. Double the space, fine. We could say 100, okay, and then we say this 150 from the right. We'll push it this side, refresh. Here we are. So we have created something nice. We could as well add other boxes and then create this line, 2 more boxes, and create this line. We can enlarge their sizes to reduce the space in between. We can do many things here now. So this is position absolute. Now it also works with words, by the way. You can put a word here and position it. For example, we could come here and say, let's say we have .bp. Can call this an ID. Then we can say we can call this and maybe say paragraph, something like maybe news desk, or send us something small. I wanted something small. I can say message us, or just a message. Okay, so when I refresh this one here, it is right at the top, following all other ways. So where do we put it? We can maybe put it here, assuming this is the bottom of page corner, like here. Okay, we can pick this ID BP, and then we begin with the hash. We say we can define the background, we can define it, but most importantly we begin with the position. Position is going to be absolute. What is going to be our bottom? It could be 5 pixels from the bottom. It could be the right hand side, also 5 pixels. We could add a background now of maybe say indigo. Then we can add a box shadow. Don't mind about this type of coloring. 3 pixels, Indiana red. So we are taking it at the bottom right corner with those parameters. We could maybe also add in something else, something like border radius of around maybe 5 pixels to create some curvatures. Now you know what that means. So when we refresh after the designs, see, we have some nice button there that reads message. We could also give it a color. For example, we can say color. This would want to apply to paragraph. So okay, color, whatever is written in this ID. Color, let me speak white smoke, maybe it will come out. We refresh here. So message, this could act as a link. If we made it a link, it could also act as a link, such that you click here, you message us. That is position absolute. We've spent quite some time on it. I'm taking my time such that you really understand what these things mean. So the next one will be position fixed. And how does position fixed work? It also uses a container, but in most cases for position fixed it uses what we call viewport. For it, immediately you use it with a browser window, and it is very, very important, as you will see when we are dealing with the live live example, you will see it's important. So let's go to our code and work with position fixed. We can pick the whole of this like this, copy. She's position fixed. So I might not need I can use it. I can as well use the browser window. It will not matter because for it is picking majorly the browser window. So I can use this parent or not. I can see B window, but I just want to use because it picks the browser window, so it is what I will use. We change these 6, 7, 8. I will leave this for you to play around with as you do this work. This we can call it 2 to make sure we avoid collision. We can leave the message as it is. So let's begin with position position fixed. When we refresh, this is what we shall see down here. Okay, that is what we shall see down there. Position fixed. So we can use B7 for explanations. We can say B7. We define its position as fixed. Okay, before we define position, let us see where it would be with this 100 pixels, height 100 pixels, background we can pick say violet. Okay, we can say maybe violet, no problem. So let us refresh and see where it is. See, our message now goes down because by default it should be coming after that. See it here. Okay, so we now say position fixed. Let me refresh. See, so it is just jumping up and down because we have not yet defined where this guy is supposed to be. Okay, so we can now say top should be, we want to say maybe top right corner. We can play around with these figures. We can say top 100 pixels, then right hand side. The right hand side maybe we can say 20 pixels, and we'll refresh our page. Now we see it here. See, it is picking 100 pixels from the port view or web browser window. So this word could go like this. We can pick this message of ours here and do it fixed. It was here. Okay, copy. Then we can come here. It was BP2. This one here is what we are dealing with. Is position fixed. Position fixed. This one is fixing it at the bottom right corner. Maybe we want it at the top. No problem. We change this top. Maybe 10 pixels. The other one is 100. We can pick around 30 pixels from the top. The right hand side, what if we want 5? Let us see how that one will look like. By default it would stay here like where it is now. Now we expect it to be around here. To refresh our page, there it is. See, so fixed. The other thing of fixed is when you scroll, the thing stays there. Others are moving, as you can see them moving on top, but these are fixed, so they will forever be here. So if it was an important message, you could use JavaScript to make this. We shall see even in animations to make this, for example, message keep dancing around and becoming a bit, maybe even including splashes, and then it becomes more attractive, such that somebody really wants to see what is this message. That is if we have created it as a link. Okay, so that is position fixed. We can look at another one called position sticky, and for position sticky, what we can explain is that it will use one, it can use the browser window, or it can use a container, whatever you choose to do, the browser window or the container. We shall see both. So what happens is that you set parameters that move, or when somebody is scrolling the page, just like fixed. For fixed, when you're scrolling the page, whatever you said to be fixed stays where it is. It doesn't move. Okay? For sticky, it will move up to the certain defined parameters, and then it stops moving, and then the rest can keep on moving underneath it. Let's do that in practice. Come here, we say position sticky. We can change this class maybe now to sticky, and this can be 10. Now we can change this to BP. Maybe you can even say ID sticky. These ones can't go. Okay. So let us look at what sticky does. We go to our CSS now to see what sticky does. We pick this class. We can begin with using a container, for example. Then we shall use the viewport later. Then we say that the height should be 200 pixels. We'll say that the width should be maybe 300 pixels. Then we say that background, make the background of this to be light green, for example. Then we say, okay, let me refresh, you see what is happening. This is the box you've just created with the word message in it. Okay. So what are we going to do? We could now add our positions for position sticky to see what really is taking place inside our work. We could add our position called sticky, and we see what happens. So we come here and say position sticky. When we refresh currently, there is nothing you are able to see. Okay, it is still the same until we define the direction. So from now onwards, know that position, for it to work properly, goes with the direction. Direction, for it to work properly, if we are dealing with positions, goes with position. So we can say bottom what? 0 pixels. Let me explain. This means that when this container touches the bottom at 0 pixels, then it will stop moving. The rest of the words will keep moving, but this will keep there. This will keep there without moving. It won't move. Let us refresh our page. We test that. There is some space down there. See, before it was moving inside or continuous. Now see what happens. It stays there as others move. Observe. See? Observe. So what if we reduced these parameters and made this height 30 and made this width something like 100, then we see we are going to add in other parameters. Height 30, width we could call it 150, then we add something like this. We add something like maybe we increase its height a little bit to 40. Then we could add in other parameters. We change the thing completely. We say text dash align center. We can now say box shadow, maybe 3 pixels. What do we need? We can say pick our indigo color here. When we refresh, this is what we are seeing. You could vertically align this by simply adding line height, and we set it to 40 pixels also. When we refresh, this word of ours will be there. We can add on something. We are creating a bigger CSS code now. We can say font size maybe 20 pixels, the default being 16 pixels. We could bold it, we could leave it there. So we are scrolling down, it is like this. Okay, when it touches the bottom, it stays and others keep moving. So meaning somebody will be like, what is this? I have a message. You click, you see, position sticky, position sticky, position fixed, position relative, position absolute. That is all that we can talk about here. Or maybe I can pick for you something that goes up. Let us see. In our code here we have H1. We have everywhere we have H3. Let us use H3 for example, and we say position sticky. We can say H3. Then we say position. We are not going to design it much. Sticky. Top. That when this word reaches the top, it should stay. It can be top 0 pixels. We can just add a border radius. Border radius 3 pixels, just something small. We can limit the width to around 3 pixels. We could do a background, something that might look nice, maybe I'd see green. So when we refresh our page, you see our position H3, it looks like this. We could add text align to put it in the center, or vertical alignment. So when now I move up, you see, so we start moving up. When it reaches the top, it stays. It has stayed. Position absolute. If it was to reach the top, it would also stick and others pass. We can enlarge it a bit. We could say when you are 20 pixels from the top, stick, such that we can see 1 or 2 sticking. 20 pixels stick, 20 pixels stick. Okay, our page is just ending from here. If I want, I can push it further down to 100 pixels. So you see it is being pushed down the same height as this. At 100 pixels stick, so that one stays there automatically. This one comes, stays. So our page stops at that. If we had more other things down, even this would move up, even this one here would move up, and when it reaches here it sticks, others keep moving. That is position sticky for you. Thank you. We are going, the next tutorial you need to look out for is the live example of how you can arrange a page. Then that will be all about position.